Welcome to My Accent is No Accident podcast. I'm your host, Maritza Perez. Our guest today is a transformational business coach and certified neuroencoding specialist. Meet Constantin Bogdan Morun, your guide in transformational leadership. Constantin Morun is dedicated transformational performance coach for high-achieving change makers, waymakers, and visionaries. He specializes in guiding leaders to reconnect with their true selves, helping them lead with authenticity, clarity, and purpose, all while creating a space for joy, fulfillment, and lasting impact. As a neuroencoding specialist, Constantine empowers individuals to rewire their minds for peak performance and lasting change. His methods blend the latest in psychology, neuroscience, and mindset transformation, allowing leaders to break free from internal narratives that hold them back, particularly the deeply ingrained belief of not being enough. But Constantine's work does not end there. Alongside his scientific expertise, he's also a gifted shaman, healer, and channeler, capable of connecting with angelic and shamanic guides to facilitate deeper transformative healing. Wow. Through his own journey of spiritual awakening and self discovery, Constantine has found a way to harmonize the tangible and intangible, integrating both worlds, support others on a profound journey to personal growth. Welcome, Constantine. It is an honor to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Maritza. It's an honor to be here.
I love all the phases of, all the phases of your life and the transformations that you had. But before we start full in with the episode, I would like you to answer one question for me. Constantine, what is your accent and why is not an accident?
So the accent, I love the question so much, and it's what attracted me to want to have a conversation with you. So first, I'm grateful to be here on the show, and my accent and why it's not an accident. I mean, I was born, let's talk about the physical accent, right? Because I do have one. I was born in Eastern Europe, and then I moved to Canada when I was 17, and the accent stayed with me. And I thought for the longest time, I'll be honest with you, I hated having an accent because it felt like I was not being accepted, included, not being seen by other people. But that was just in my mind, right? I was making it to be that way. And sure, some people can be not less inclusive because someone is from a different place, but we also play a part in that. And I know that I played a big part in it. And our accents, I guess, if we go more in a spiritual direction or a non-physical direction, it's also really the accent of our soul on our human experience, because we're all different individuals, you could say, and yet we're very, very similar, right? So we all have that uniqueness, which is that accent, but then we're all, doesn't matter the color of our skin, the background, the place we are born in or live in, we're all the same in the end. We're all here to have a human experience, and that's why I love your show's focus on the DEI part, because yes, we are diverse, but we are the same, and we are on a similar path, on the same path, actually, to just have a human experience and live the best life we can.
That is beautiful, Constantine. I love the way you put it, because it is true. We are all the same, and this is just a phase we're having. And we cannot forget where we come from, that we are a spirit. Our soul is what matters. Yeah. So, reading your bio, I went through totally like all this transformation that you had in life. Let's go back before today. Who made you today? So before you being enlightened and being transforming lives, you were incorporate and you were working with high executives, high level executives. Tell me a little bit about your life before today's Constantine.
Yes, yes. No, thank you for the opportunity. I want to say something before we jump into that. Is that I, like everyone else, I'm still on my own journey of awakening and enlightenment, so to speak. Right, I've been on it for a while, made progress, but I see it as a no, but and I see it as a lifelong journey of remembering and discovering your true essence. And taking us back a bit, I was always the type of person to feel like I had a calling to do something more with my life, but I never actually did anything with it in my earlier years. I was very successful in anything I did. I had many entrepreneurial adventures and then joined corporate America, climbed the ladder, worked, joined Microsoft 7 years ago in senior roles and had a chance to mentor and coach and work with some really high level people. And before all of that, I was a poker coach, professional poker player and coach, mentoring and tutor for math and sciences. My background is in mathematics and computer science and engineering, and my passion is in psychology. So I was able to blend these two worlds together and truly have an impact in my life and the life of others. But the old me was very much stuck in the material world, which is what I feel a lot of us in society these days are. I'm not saying I'm fully out of it. I still, we still live in a material world. We still need, to some degree, some of the aspects of the material world. But I was very much the same. And it was about 4 years ago when I was chasing this big promotion at Microsoft, and I achieved it because I'm a high achiever. I'm a go-getter, so I got it. And I thought that would solve a lot of the issues I was going through. I was working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, just using distractions to keep myself or my mind occupied outside of work hours, like gaming and food and Netflix and all the stuff. And I was miserable on the inside. And I thought that once I get this milestone, I'll feel better. And you know how it goes, right? You chase something, you get there, you have the euphoria of the moment, and then when it dissipates, it could be as early as a day or two after, it could be a week or a month, you realize you're more empty on the inside than ever before. And that's where I was before today.
Incredible. So you were not feeling, and this happens to many of us. Like that happened to me while I was in corporate. I felt like I was not fulfilled, and I needed to. My soul was looking for something else. Um, Therefore, I opened up my own company.
Mhm.
But there are many times when that might just being in corporate is where you thrive, and that's where we go today, talking about how much is your corporate world gonna change you, and how much can you allow that to happen.
Mhm, mhm. And I love that you mentioned that because personally, I don't believe there's anything wrong with having a career in corporate. Many of us do, and that's fine. What I had a challenge myself was not being true to myself and not standing in my truth and what it is that brings me joy and fulfillment. And once I have been able to do more work in that area, 4 years ago when I started, it allowed me to start enjoying my job and find fulfillment and joy within it. Sure, it wouldn't be as big as, let's say, doing something fully from the heart. But as you start to get to know yourself better, start to overcome some of those shadow aspects of yourself, get to heal certain aspects of yourself, you get to realize that you are the creator of your own life. Psychology has proved this, right? Because our thoughts and beliefs create our reality. In spirituality, they talk about co-creation and manifestation. It's all the same thing. You create your reality, and if that's the case, what I ask you, listening to this, if you're in a job you don't like, in a relationship you're not happy in, why are you creating that? There is a reason, and usually the reason has to do with your growth. Every time there's a challenge that comes up, it's an opportunity for you to look at it and say, oh, I'm being shown something here. I'm being taught something here. I may be missing it, but there is something here. And the moment you open yourself up to the possibility that there is something in it for you, regardless of how negative it might seem, losing a job, breaking up with someone, or whatever else, you then will gain the power back and realize that you actually are creating this for a reason. That's your growth. That's for your higher self.
Mhm. Exactly. So it is important to know that it's not only about the money, because when we die, the money stays in earth. We don't take it with us.
I mean, everything does, right? Like, it's funny because there still is a saying that, the only two sure things in life are death and taxes. And that's a lie. The only sure thing is death, right? Taxes was thrown in maybe as a joke or maybe as a way of telling us that we have no choice, but you do have a choice. You don't want to pay taxes, you can choose to not pay taxes. Now, will there be certain outcomes that come out of you not doing that? Absolutely. But you can also do like many of my friends and people I know moved to, let's say, Dubai or places in the Middle East or even in Europe where you pay either no tax or almost no tax. So really the only truth in life is that you're here for a limited amount of time, limited in the context of the infinite, right? And the only sure thing is that you will have an exit. It could be after 50 years of your life, it could be after 150. The question is, what are you going to do with the time you have available here?
Yes. What are you going to do with your story? How are you going to build that story? And that's something very important that you work on with your clients, and it's
Yes.
helping them build that story and understanding how powerful that is. It's,
Yes. It's really about, so if I can expand that, because the stories are so important. Some people may call them programs, or they may call them beliefs, right, or thought patterns. They're all very similar. When I say stories, is think about you're going through your life right now, and you're stumbling upon a challenge, and you say, you know what, I cannot overcome this. Or you stumble upon something that you can overcome. Either way, what are you basing your decisions or your perceptions on? It's the stories of your life. So maybe when you grew up in an environment that put you down often, that didn't allow your light to shine through. Like I grew up in that environment. Then it's going to attack your self-confidence, and it's going to seed in self-doubt quite a bit. And then when you get faced with a challenge in your life, one that's a bit harder for your average person, you will throw in the towel. And that's okay. There's no judgment there. But the way I see it is, all these stories of our life, they've always had a purpose and a reason for being in our life. And if you think about them, they're created by your mind, by your ego, to do one thing, to keep you safe, to keep you alive until you can procreate and make sure that the civilization continues. That's the only job of your ego and your mind, to keep you alive. It doesn't care if you're happy. It doesn't care if you're thriving. Now the stuff is important because survival is the reason. Now, if you get to tap into I talk a lot about the mind, body, soul connection. If you get to tap into your body, into your soul essence, you realize that there is a place and a reason behind everything, including the power of your mind and the ego. But now you can tap into this infinite aspect of yourself, because you're a soul having a human experience. That's my belief, regardless of what religion you affiliate yourself with, or no religion. And if that's the case, if you're this infinite being, why are you allowing yourself, or allowing your brain, your mind, your ego to limit you? Yes, it's going to be scary if you take a different approach. But once you start, it's very easy to realize that you are actually in control and you have the power to create whatever reality you want to create.
that is correct. It's like, for instance, if we put the example of your story, there was a point in your story that you were like, this is not supposed to be, this is not how I want to end. And many of us go to that. My realization was during COVID, when I said, this is not how I'm going to end.
Yes.
And then you made the changes that you needed to do. And many of us do it without even thinking. We do it as a survival, but if we do it from the conscious mind, the results are even bigger. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I love that aspect actually. Maritza, thank you for sharing your part of your story as well. And I agree with you. Like, I mean, we will, the way I see it in life, we will be faced with challenges all the time. And the main reason you're faced with challenges, the way I see it, is to give you an opportunity to remember your power and grow in this experience that you're having. And that means that on the other side of a challenge, there's always abundance. And abundance, I'm not talking just about money. It could be abundance of relationships, abundance of self-worth, abundance of self-love, whatever the case might be. And you have proof in your life that this is the case. So I invite you listening right now to look back to a situation in which you had faced a challenge and then you overcame the challenge, however small or big you want to pick it. You are a different person at the beginning of the challenge than you are at the end of the challenge. And that's the abundance, right? One, for me, I started on the journey with the promotion at Microsoft, a certain person, and I had to learn some new skills. I had to show up differently. I had to work longer hours to become the person that would get the promotion. And then once I got the promotion, abundance came on the other side. Now, here's the interesting thing. Abundance showed up, of course, financially, because the promotion comes with a raise, right? More responsibility, more recognition, but also, the way I see it now, more of that light that comes through to see that what perhaps you were missing is that this was not what you were supposed to be doing, or not supposed to be doing. Sorry, you're not who you are and what you're chasing. So it gave me the abundance of awareness. Awareness that this path I was putting myself on, climbing the corporate ladder, chasing the American dream and having the American dream, is not for me. It doesn't mean it's not for you. It just wasn't for me. For me, the path was leading me somewhere else. And the question then becomes, are you going to do something with awareness? Because after awareness, and I always talk about this, awareness is half the battle. Once that, that 50% is done, the question comes next. It's pretty simple. Do you give yourself permission to do something with that? Because it's fine either way. Like, there is no right or wrong answer. You could say, no, you know what? I'm aware that this is a challenge. I'm aware that my soul wants to, or my heart wants to go in a different direction, but I can't do that right now. And that's okay. Or you can give yourself permission to do it. And if you do, then doors open up. And it's almost like you can see it. If you look back at anything you've done in life, any challenge you've overcome, you can literally see when you made the choice to give yourself permission to go through with it. Sometimes the choice didn't seem as obvious to you because it felt like it was made for you. But I invite you to look back at that and truly ask yourself, did I not have a choice in this? Because even in the worst of situations, you always have a choice.
As you are talking about this, that there are a couple of situations where there were basically dead ends, right? And I'm sure many of the people that are listening are going to probably say, yes, that happened to me too. Like, you feel like you're in a dead end, but I have always seen it like, okay, I cannot keep on going. So let's go back and see where was that I missed the turn. And I have always kind of like been like, oh, okay, so what are the other options? So I think that is more than just trying to get bigger and bigger. Is more trying to understand what you are saying, which is so important to learn the lessons in life. Just the awareness and knowing that resilience was what you gain from something, from, like, for instance, I lost my father many years ago. So understanding that my hero died and I could live without him.
Yeah, I feel you.
It's just the resilience that I needed. And just knowing that I could leave his legacy and I could keep on going just as he lived, or even better. So it's not a dead end. Our perception sometimes is that programming, that story we're telling in our heads that is not allowing us to move forward.
Exactly. Spot on, Maritza. And I love your vulnerability as well. It's like, and that story that you just talked about, or stories, know that both science and spirituality, so when you bridge the two of them individually, they have shown how For example, in science, through neuroplasticity, through neuroscience, you have the ability to rewire your brain, meaning that you have the ability to change those stories. If a story no longer serves you, you have the ability to change it. Think of it as what you have is software in this beautiful hardware of a body. For those of you that use an iPhone or on a Samsung device or a Google device, whatever you use, you know that if you don't update the software regularly, you're going to have issues. Those stories are your software. How often do you revisit and say, you know what, does this story need an update? Because if you don't update the story, you're going to run. I'm 41 right now. I am still running and I'm working through that on stories of like 30, 35, 40 years ago. Because you pick the stories up, and again, this is shown both science and spirituality, from pretty much the age of 0, and especially till the age of 7. Those are the big times when like pretty much your conscious mind is being formed, so you're absorbing everything through your subconscious, and a lot of stories are being passed down to you from your environment, society, parents, caregivers, teachers, and you, of course, then take them and make them your own stories.
Yes.
But most of the time, they're not even yours.
Wow. And then you're like today, you know what I'm thinking right now is we had television, we had a lot of things growing up.
Yes.
Right? And today we have social media, which is programming our kids to a total disbelief in life. We keep telling our kids that this is not real, that what they're showing is not real. It's just 30 seconds or 1 minute of the story. But it's not real. Everything is. But then I believe also that we can turn it around and explicitly said something like rewire our brains, saying it is entertainment, but it's not truth. Our parents were able to do it. You know, television and movies are not truth. What do you think about that?
I love that. I mean, it's funny because truth is a funny thing, right? Because everyone has their version of truth. And it doesn't make my truth more truthful than yours. Because our stories is what essentially, the way I see it is the stories act as a lens through which we see life. And then you have a lot of lenses through which you look. Same as if you ever wear glasses, you know what happens when you take your glasses off, right? And then put them back on. And if you look at social media, it's just one lens through which we get to see life. If you look at Instagram, Facebook, people post only about the good stuff, right? So the lens you see the content through is the lens of everyone has more than I do. Everyone is happier than I am. Everyone is more than I am. Now, if you do that with kids, with earlier or younger adults that haven't had a chance to explore life and see different perspectives, and that's the only perspective they see, then it's very easy to see how people can get manipulated into a certain truth of how life is or should be. And what I come in with all the content I do, the free content, the paid content, all the stuff I do, what I emphasize on is that truth will feel really good in your heart if you know it's your truth. And if it doesn't, if you can get to open up your body to communicate with you, because it's always trying to communicate, then you will literally feel what's true for you or not. And what might be true for me might not be true for you, Maritza, or anyone listening. But there are some, you can call them core truths, right? Meaning like, love is the answer. As hippie as that might sound, right? In the sense that coming from a place of love, compassion, empathy, that is the answer. Because we know what happens when we come from a place of fear versus when we come from a place of love. Even a simple example of someone cutting you off in traffic, which is one of my favorite because I should do this all the time. They cut you off in traffic. You choose to come from a place of fear, meaning honking your horn, rolling your window down, saying some beautiful things to people, versus coming from a place of love where you can have compassion about it and saying, yeah, you know what, maybe they're running late. Maybe they have to go to the hospital. Maybe it doesn't matter in the end why the case, but you can think about that.
Yes.
And you can choose. And guess what happens? When you come from that place of love, there is no distress in your life happening. Yeah, you might be late by 15 seconds to wherever you're going, or, you might get spooked, but that's it. But when you come from a place of fear, just think back at how much you suffer in the process. Because really, yes, you're going to make others suffer outside of you, but it's really about you in the end. because who you are is what projects outside, right? So if your perceptions are clouded, if your truth is clouded and keeping deep down, then what's coming outside of you, it's everything but the truth.
Yes. I'm going to share a story, something that happened this morning. This morning we were driving to the school. I was driving my daughter to school, and suddenly a car just make a turn, and then we realized that the car went into the bushes and crashed. And we're like, huh? But it was not a heavy crash. It was like very slow. And I'm like, oh my goodness, the person just fell asleep. So obviously I have kids with me, so I cannot stop and help, but I slow down to make sure the person was okay. Everything, this is in a neighborhood, so we were not driving fast. So not to make this story long, is the person was falling asleep, maybe coming to going home. I can tell you was probably going home because they were going into a neighborhood. And in the entrance, hit the bushes instead of keep on going. So we clearly knew that the person fell asleep. We made sure that they were not having like a heart attack or something. Then we kept on going. So I think that part of awareness is not only, let's don't call it, and we start with the simple fact of being aware of your limitations. Hi, I'm very happy to know you are here watching our podcast today. It is an honor to be featuring so many entrepreneurs on the journeys of their inside voice, their accent that is not an accident. And we want to reach out more people like you who are creating a better world of diversity, inclusiveness, equity, and belonging. So please take a moment to hit the subscribe button below, like, and share to others. And even if you want to leave a comment, that'll be nice. Thank you for your support. And now back to the episode. So if you are extremely tired and you're getting out of work or coming back home or anything, and you are asleep, like do like people like me that have this vertigo thing, what we do is we stop and we call for a ride because we know we cannot do it. So that is awareness. And I wanted to make this a specific moment as a sample for our audience that awareness starts with that, knowing your limits. It's something simple. And then when you know that you have certain things that you can do in such day or moment and you make different choices, that is also rewiring. So it is in the physical world as well as in the spiritual world. So but when you start doing changes as small as this, other paths would start to grow and kind of like go into the success and the freedom that we want in life. So in your case, we're saying, and you help your clients with rewiring their brains, but everything starts with the physical, and then you grow into the spiritual. Would you like to kind of like talk about that a little?
I love the story you shared, and thank you for your vulnerability. There are parts that don't fully necessarily see the same way as you, and that's okay. Meaning that you mentioned know your limits, and I want to add a piece to that because that is truth. It's know your limits given your current stories.
Yes.
You are an infinite being, meaning that you have no limits. The only limits are imposed up here based on the stories of our life. Now, there are physical limits that this hardware device that we have running the human body will have to follow, which is the example you gave, which is a beautiful example. And sometimes a condition like yours with vertigo will make it such that it takes the choice away from you, right? Or it makes it easier to take the choice away. Let me put it that way, because I had a friend that was getting that condition and she still drove, which was not advisable. Not always, but sometimes. So, the choice is there, but it's easier for you to make it. But when it comes to but when it comes to what you said, it starts with the physical, then the spiritual. I would say yes and no. Here's why. Because when I embarked on this journey 4 years ago to truly discover what would bring me joy and happiness, who I am, my purpose in life, my gifts and strengths, I improved certain things about my physical self. Some ways I ate, some ways I slept. Sleeping was a big one for sure. Instead of sleeping, cutting on sleep, I brought it back to 7 to 8 hours, but didn't spend too much time on the physical. And then I was taken to this beautiful place in Ecuador for a spiritual retreat. It was the first time I would do anything like that, and actually the only time since. But that was the spiritual awakening. So spirit awoke within me before the physical body connection was made. And the way I say this, you have the mind, body, spirit. The way we bridge and connect between the mind or the brain or the ego to the spirit is through the body. Because like you said, we do get messages through the body. So I kind of bypassed that and then worked my way back to light up the body and start to come into my body, take better care of my body. That's a work in progress still, because I've been a certain way for a long time. And in an ideal world, I guess, if you were to explain, you would work on them at the same time, and it starts by bridging the through the body. But I know that I've seen myself and I've seen others that don't necessarily start there, but they always have to come back to the body, because the body, your intuition is in your body.
Yes.
Right? Different diseases and illnesses are in your body that talk to you about your spiritual path that's not being aligned in some way. So that's my take on that. But I love the example you gave, because it opens up the discussion to so much more.
I know, I love it, because I wanted this in it, especially because you enlighten me right now on saying, yes, you're right, but, and I love that part, because you, one of the things that I love in doing this podcast, and you also have a podcast, is that you learn so much from your guest. And I love this because, yes, my body is kind of like that internal GPS that is telling me, hey, something is that turn right, like something is wrong here. We're in the wrong place. And then my spirit, my soul is who I am, my essence. So this morning I was like talking to the girls, and I was telling them, they were like, wow, why somebody will drive when, for kids, it's easier. They're like, oh, spirit, right? So they're like, why would you make that decision? And adults is like, because we have to pay the bills.
Right? Because it feels like no choice, right? That's where choice comes in again. And it's one of the things that I talk about a lot, because there are many situations in life where you feel like you have no choice. And I would invite anyone thinking that they don't have a choice in everything they do is to examine and see, is it just the other choice or the other choices are just not very pleasant? Look at the example with the taxes, right? You can literally choose not to pay taxes. Yes, there will be, some will call them consequences. I call them outcomes. There will be outcomes to that, but everything in life is a choice in the end.
Yes, exactly. So, and then I want to go back to the example, because it helps us in so many ways. So let's say the car is our physical body. So if we drive it into the bushes, we're going to break it.
At least scratch it, right? In that example, right? At least, the very least.
Yes. So at least you're going to get a good scratch. But you have the choice, but you are behind the wheel. And in this case, your soul is behind the wheel, correct?
Yes.
And
so let me add something there, because I think you touched on something so important there, and I love that you went there. The way I see it is, your soul, the way it communicates to you is through your body. However, we're so busy in this world with the various distractions and the way we live our lives, and the lack of, let's call it, education on this subject in the school system, at least the way I grew up both in Romania and Canada. Nobody teaches you how to actually drop within your body and start to listen to what it's being shared with you through spirit. Your intuition is a great example of this. How many times do you remember feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, or I should be taking a right turn instead of a left. And then you don't listen to that.
Yes,
And
exactly.
then you look back and it's like, huh, yeah, maybe I should have listened. Right? Like, I mean, I know it, for me, it happened all the time in the past. And I was not spiritual, I was not religious, I was agnostic. And yet there was still something that was like, huh, that's interesting. So yeah, that's coming back to what you were saying, is like your spirit talks through your body. That's how it communicates. I mean, dreams are through your body, right? When your brain goes to sleep, it's through
Yes,
your body that is being communicated. All of it is, right? So same with illnesses and diseases and whatnot. There's a reason they're there, more than just a physical reason.
exactly. And I love our conversation. I love this, but there is something very important that you teach leaders. And we are jumping and continuing with this conversation, but there is also something that is very important, is the freedom of time.
Yes, 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 absolutely.
So talk to us about what is this and how you help your clients with this.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for asking me the question. And I'm gonna take it a step up first, and then I'm gonna bring us down to the freedom of time. So
Okay.
here's when I in the last little while, as I'm getting much more clear on what my mission is in this life, how I see it, my vision for my life, I realized that really my gift is, and the gift of every human being here as well, is to just shine your light bright. Meaning, be yourself, stand in your truth, unapologetically you. And if some people don't like it, that's fine. Other people will. So that's what I see my core mission in this life, core intention for life, whatever you want to call it. When I come on a show like this and you invite me in, is my main intention is always shine my light bright, stand in my truth, be me, share what I know, with no necessary outcome in mind. Now, what I hope to do is to inspire and empower others to shine their light bright, to come into their power. Now, here's the interesting thing I found. We all do some of the shining in our own life, like your true authentic self coming through, that compassionate, loving person that you are. But if you want to do more of it, what does it require? It requires you to know thyself, meaning go deep within and find out who you truly are below all the indoctrination, all the stories of life that we just talked about. But if you look at our life, especially as a leader, if you're a leader listening right now, and we're all leaders in our own lives, with title or without a title, you're probably the busiest person out there. How can you know thyself? How can you spend time to know thyself if you don't have time for yourself? So that's why freedom of time, and I combine the freedom of time and energy together because they work hand in hand. So it's how do we get you as a leader some time back, some freedom of time, so then you can invest some of it into knowing thyself more, so then you can shine your light bright even more. And it's almost like it's not almost, to me, it's like a wheel. So once it gains momentum, it's going to keep going, because the more you shine your light, the more you get to know yourself, the more time you create. The more time you create, the more time you can put into yourself, the more you can shine your light, right? So it goes both ways. So that's how I see it.
So basically, what you're saying is, in order to give back time to ourselves, no, in order to know ourselves, we need to give time to ourselves to
Correct.
to
So
know.
that introspection, that solo time where you meditate, you journal, you read a book, you go walk in nature, the time without a distraction, right? Because before, I was looking for my phone, but before I started on this path 4 years ago, there was no moment in which I was just with myself. Because I would finish meetings at work or whatever, I would jump on my phone or my computer, or I would go talk to my partner or do things. There was no time for me. Now, Maritza, I work more than ever before, meaning like I'm more productive than ever before. I have the best relationship possible. I have the life that I could never imagine before. Yet, I give the most time to myself, something to the tune of 25 to 30 hours a week to myself. When before, I was giving a total of 0, because gaming, watching Netflix, there wasn't time to myself. There was just a distraction to keep my mind occupied and not with its own thoughts. Now, I didn't go from 0 to 25 and to 30 hours a week investing in myself overnight. It was gradual, but it still happened, right? It still had to start somewhere. And the way it did for me was creating this time where I said, you know what? I did an inventory of my life, because you asked me the question, how do you start? You do an inventory of your life. You can look back at your last 2 weeks, or you can do it forward, taking notes. There's many categories that one can look at. And I have a free course on this, by the way, so I can send you the link and you can put it in the comments for people to watch. But
Awesome.
it's essentially, you can look at the categories of work, which will include commuting, and it will include things such as how much time you spend on emails and things like that. You include family time, your self time, all of this. Because once you have the data, you can then make an active choice to say, you know what, man, I'm spending 70 hours on this bucket at work.
Oh my gosh.
Can I find some time there? And I have clients that go from working 70, 80 hours a week, Maritza, to working 20 to 30 hours by the time we're done. And it's the idea is you've got to start with freedom of time, where you find 5 to 10 hours in your schedule. And by the way, I promise you that everyone listening right now can find 5 to 10 hours in their week easily. 5 to 10 hours. And what I recommend is you take half of the time, whatever, let's say you found 6 hours, take 3 of those hours and put them back into yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be all at the same time. It could be an hour today on reading a book that propels you on your journey, an hour tomorrow doing some journaling or meditation, or maybe some art, allowing your creativity to come through. And the more you do that, the more time seems to appear out of thin air. Now, of course, we still have to deal with the root cause, because time is not lost because we don't know what to do with it. We do know what to do with it. It's lost because of our stories, our thoughts and beliefs that come up here. Because let me give you a quick example for your audience and for you here. Let me ask you this, Maritza. How many emails do you write or send a day?
I will probably say, let's say, between 10 to 20, depending on the day.
Okay, let's take simple 10. In those emails, you write the email up. How many times do you, on average, reread or go back over what you wrote, versus how many times do you write and just hit send?
I think that I will say that 2 or 3 times per email.
You go back over it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this. What do you think causes that? What causes us to go over our emails multiple times before sending them?
I believe that is because we want to give the right message.
Correct. But what's the right message based on? It's based on our stories, right?
Yes.
So if you have a story that says, or let's say, let's take an example, maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you sent a message that you didn't check properly, and then you got berated by your manager or something bad happened. Now you have a program running that says, ooh, I got to check these all the time because I can't trust myself.
Yes.
So the reason one of the reasons that we check the emails over and over is that there's a fear of rejection underlying. There might be a fear of abandonment, that if I say the wrong things, this client is going to abandon me. It's going to go away. This boss is going to get upset with this person. Rejection goes hand in hand with that. Or fear of failure is another one that can do this. Imposter syndrome is like, wow, I just need to find the right words because it needs to be perfect. They see me as this person. It needs to be perfect. Otherwise, they'll finally see that I'm an imposter and I'm not who I say I am.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you said is absolutely normal. Almost all of us do that. How much time do you think it takes you to go over the emails 2 or 3 times every time? What if you could take that time back?
It will be perfect.
You will create more time in your life, right?
Yes.
But you see, it's because of our stories that make, let's call them simple tasks, take much longer. Even when you send a text message to someone, right? Even when you don't have to write emails, right? Like, or you have a conversation with someone, how much of the stuff happens in your head? And then you might be like typing a message like, no, I'm not going to send it. It's going to sound stupid.
Then you go tick, 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 tick backwards.
Right? That's all time lost. It's not really lost. I mean, it's all for you. It's all happening for you and your highest good. It's lost because you haven't actually looked at what the message is there for you. So when I look at this email, I always do this on a whiteboard as well to show the example. Like, 10 emails. Let's say you can save even just 1 minute an email, right? Because I mean, imagine 2-3 revisions. It's at least 5 minutes in total, at least, if probably 10. for most people. But let's say you can save 1 to 2 minutes per email. Let's say 2 minutes. Let's take 2 minutes. You have saved 20 minutes a day. Over 5 days of work, you've saved 100 minutes, almost 2 hours of your time.
Yes.
If I told you I'll give you 2 hours back in your life, what would you do with it? Now, here's where it gets interesting. Most people is like, well, if I got more time, I would just waste it again. I will go watch Netflix. I'll play a game. That was me, by the way. And I have clients telling me this is like, well, I need to do something with the time. I'm like, yes, that's why we take some of it and invest in yourself. And here's the funny part. Almost every client I work with, be it in a one-on-one or a group setting, they start with the idea that they'll find time and they'll use half of it on themselves at the beginning. And almost everyone uses all of it on themselves because they realize very quickly how powerful it is. Because the more you go in yourself, the more you realize all the power resides within you, and the more free time you start to create. Because all of a sudden you see opportunities where you can start delegating things. You can start removing yourself from projects. Certain people start to disappear from your life, or the veil gets lifted and you see that relationship you're spending so much time on is not actually conducive to your higher self. And then you exit as if by miracle. So that's why freedom of time is so important, because without time, which is our most precious resource in this illusion, in this human body, and we all have a finite amount of it, we can't do much. So I'm here to help you regain that, so then you can invest it in yourself and be able to shine your light bright as it could be.
And I love that. I think that part of the being in corporate, you get programmed to just work and be there for work, and everything is work, and you work as many hours as you want, as you have to, because you think
minimum 40, right? Most people minimum 40 hours, so it's finite. It's like you got to put this, and if you don't work 40, then there's something wrong with you. You're not good enough, right?
Yes.
All these programs start to run.
Well, that is minimum 40, but usually people want you to work 50 to 60 hours, right?
Exactly.
If not 80. But then you want to fulfill that, and it makes you feel more important, better, and people kind of like give you rewards.
They do.
So it's like, then I got to a point where like, so people are rewarding me for not being with my family.
That's a beautiful way to say it. Absolutely.
And that was one of the things that I realized. I'm like, this is not how I'm going to end. I mean, like, wait a minute, I'm going to die. And how much time do I really spend at home?
Yeah.
How many days I haven't seen my daughter? Things like that, right?
Powerful.
Then I started to change that. So now, and you're probably going to be proud of me, but now, and I have said it many times here, but my mornings is my me time.
Yes.
And many people tell me, but I want to book up an appointment with you at 8. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm busy.
Yeah, it's standing in your truth. I love that, because the more you go down this path, and that's what I've realized with my path as well, is the more you get to stand in your truth unapologetically. Meaning like, hey, this is my boundary. This is what it is for me. And like you, I have a morning routine that does not get interrupted. And it sets a day in motion with so much love and joy and beauty.
Yes. And not having to explain why you're doing it.
Exactly.
So that is beautiful. That is beautiful to get to that point. And now I'm trying to create one at night. But so far, I know that at least by 7 p.m., I get out of the office and I dedicate my time to the family, to have the dinner, watch TV with them, even have a talk, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it is important also to dedicate not only time, like time for you is not only for you, but also with your family, because they're part of you. And knowing and realizing that you don't have to apologize if you don't have time for others. I mean, your time frame where other people can meet with you is defined. I think that was something that I have grown and I have been very happy about. I encourage everybody to find, you will find your time in the beauty of it is once you do it, nothing happens. Only good things happen to you, but the rest of the world, nothing happens.
Absolutely, Maritza. And I mean, even you mentioned the family part, right? And the time, because they're part of you. I would I would throw in something that might provide a different perspective, perhaps. I would argue that they're still outside of you. You are you. And if I'm choosing to spend time with my family, it's because I want to. And like you said, there doesn't need to be an explanation, doesn't have to be a justification why I want to spend time with my kids. In my case, I don't have kids, but I have a partner, I have dogs, I have friends I care for as if they're family. If I choose to spend time with them, it's because I want to and I love them. Now, with kids, you can say you have a responsibility, and it's true. Same with pets. But
Yeah.
I know when I had pets, and I'm an uncle, so I there were times when I chose not to show up at my best because I was too tired, I was too overworked, I had too much on my mind. So maybe instead of walking my dogs 3 to 4 times a day in the past, I might walk them once and then just let them in the backyard. That's still showing up, but is it showing up in your best capacity? And same with the kids, right? Because you could say you can choose not to have a play date, let's say, and just sit on the couch and watch TV because you've had such a long day. And there is no right or wrong answer. It just is. The
Yes.
question is, if you get to have more freedom of time, that gives you freedom of energy, that allows you to then truly come from the heart and spend time with those you care about, and yourself should be one of those people first, then the rest is just magical because they get the best version of you. They don't get the version that's working 70 hours a week and has no time for self, right? The version that's so depleted that there's not much they can give to others.
Exactly. I think that is a good example also for your kids, but also um, for your family to see that you are able to balance your life. They see you differently. They understand you. They start to approach you differently,
Yeah.
and that is lovely. Okay, so we are getting to the end of our conversation, and we have talked about many things. We have talked about the power of our stories and the programming that we have, and how we can communicate. Our soul communicates through our bodies. We have talked to how to rewire our brain, and it's like something very simple and easy to do with easy task. We have talked about the power of the authentic self and how to change your light bright, how it is important to come into your own power and know thyself. But we also have talked just these few minutes of the freedom of time and how to know yourself better and give time to yourself. With all these, I would like to ask you, please tell us how you work with your clients and where people can find you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that opportunity, Maritza. It's a beautiful summary. And these days, I mean, my life, my business is evolving all the time. I do have the occasional one-on-one clients that I still take on. There's a wait list for that. So if you want to work with me, you can reach out to me via LinkedIn is the best, or just send me an email, which will be in the show notes. I work with people in groups and masterminds. In November and then February, March, we'll have a retreat in Costa Rica where for 5 days we bring people like Maritza and I there, true leaders, come in community and work on what? The creation of time and energy, the know thyself piece, that mind, body, soul connection to allow you to shine more bright and allow you to step into your true leadership, self-leadership first and foremost, and heal any aspects of you that need to be healed. We haven't even had a chance to talk today about the healing aspect of this journey and what it truly means. And as I step more into my spiritual gifts as a shaman and as a healer, as a channeler, I'm able to see that and be able to guide others through that process. And it's magical. And you'll have access through the show notes as well. I have a free course on the freedom of time that I would love to share with everyone here, that you can go. It's just some videos that you can watch that I put together, and as well as invitation to come to our other free content that we put out through master classes. These are anywhere from 1 to 4 hour long, where we share all this information and we dive deep into practices, tools, techniques, and we go deep. So if you liked anything that Maritza and I talked about today, then Unleash Thyself is the podcast, also where you can find all this content, unleashthyself.com. And if you follow me, the best place to follow me is LinkedIn, because I'll post about all of these, Facebook, Instagram as well. You can find me there. And Maritza, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Constantin. This was beautiful. I loved and I learned a lot from you. Would you like to leave the audience with last thought?
Yes. I love that you asked that question. There's a few things that come up for me, but the one that's coming the most right now is this idea that I want you to know, whoever you are listening right now, regardless of your situation, material or otherwise, financial, emotional, spiritual, relationships, mental, you are an infinite being. You are capable of whatever it is that you have always dreamt of. The only person that stands in the way of that happening or that becoming a reality is, unfortunately and fortunately, you. I say unfortunately because it may seem like, wow, I've been holding myself back. Unfortunately, because if you're the one holding yourself back, you're also the one that can let yourself go and become this amazing version of yourself that you know is capable of being there. And the only way you can do, not the only way, I shouldn't say that. I said one way you can do that is by looking in the mirror and giving yourself time with yourself. And by that, you need to find some time in your schedule to be with you, your thoughts, your beliefs, challenge them, and go on this beautiful journey. You will not regret it. I promise you that much.
Oh, I mean to that. I love it. Thank you so much, Constantin.
Thank you, Maritza.
Thank you for your time. And to you, our audience, remember, we came to this world to love one another, because we're beings of love.
Yes.
Thank you and have a great time. Bye.
Love it.
Hi, it's Maritza here. If you like this episode of My Accent is No Accident podcast and would like to listen more like this, subscribe wherever you're listening to it or watching it. Leave us a nice review and share with your friends, family, and network. Thanks for listening.